discussing the specifications of op-amps. Specifications of op-amps. The first specification about which we talked, that was actually input bias current. Input bias current, and this is when we do not attach any external voltage at the inputs, even then some output is observed in op-amps, and this is the base current IB1 and IB2. These, in spite of the fact that both these inputs have been grounded, some currents flow, they go to the base region. You remember that first stage of the op-amp is a differential amplifier. So, these are the two bases. So, that is why it is called base current. This one is inverting input, other is non-inverting input. So, some currents flow in these bases. Now, ideally IB1 and also IB2 both are supposed to be 0, but normally some small currents flow. These currents do exist and IBM and IB2 are not 0. Then these currents are amplified and they produce a output voltage, which is a error voltage. And smaller these currents IB1 and IB2, better it is. So, and the manufacturers define this current, the input bias current by manufacturers is defined as the average current IB as IB1 plus IB2 by 2, and this is specified for various op-amps. For example, for 741 op-amp, IB is given as 500 nanoamperes. This is the maximum current. This is maximum current at VCC equal to 15 volts, same as also VEE. When both voltages are plus 15 and minus 15, then the maximum base input base current is 500 nanoamperes. And so, we will see that how corrective measures are taken regarding the errors which are created because of the finite base current in the absence of any input signal. There is another specification, input offset current. Input offset current, which is actually, this is the average of the two current, and this input offset current is defined by the magnitude of the difference of two currents. So, I input and O for offset, this is given by the magnitude IB1 minus IB2. And we have already talked that what gives rise to these currents. This is because the two transistors which form the difference amplifier of the first stage, they are not exactly 100% identical. They are not 100% perfectly matched. Some differences, in spite of the fact that they are assembled on a chip by the processes which are used in integrated circuits, like the gas diffusion for making N and P type and all that. In spite of that, some mismatches do occur and which give rise to this, and this current is normally very small, and for 741 this input offset current, this is 200 nanoamperes, and it is as small as 1 nanoampere in differential amplifiers which are realized using MOSFETs. So, often either this or this is much smaller than other currents. So, this is neglected, but smaller the input offset current, better it is. Now, we talk about another specification. This is important, and the remedy which we will suggest for this, that single remedy is sufficient, and it takes care for these currents and for this voltage. So, this is input offset voltage. This is another important specification. Now, this input offset voltage is the differential input here. This input offset voltage is the differential input here. VIO offset, VIO is the input offset voltage, and again this arises because of the mismatches. Actually or ideally, there should not be any input offset voltage when we have not applied any signals. Both these inputs are grounded, still some voltage will exist. So, ideally VIO should be 0, but in practice this is not 0, this is a finite value, and this is amplified. After all, open loop gain of the transistor of the op amp is very high. So, this is amplified and gives a finite output voltage. Now, so this is the error signal. Error signal, and we have to take care of it. We have to correct it, because a output will exist in the absence of any input signals, and when input signals are applied, they will be amplified, and this will be in addition to the actual signals which we expect. So, this error signal error voltage, this is to be taken care of. Now, to bring this output 0, output voltage 0, we have to apply a signal at a voltage at the appropriate place, equal in magnitude, but opposite in phase of the existing differential offset voltage. And this is done with the help of the offset null pins, which were available with the operational amplifier. I remind you about the this was the pin diagram of the op amp, where this is pin number 2, this is pin number 6, this is output, pin number 2 is inverting input minus in, and pin number 3 is, this is 3, and this is the non-inverting. Pin number 4 is minus voltage, that means VEE terminal, and this is pin number 1. This we had mentioned that this is offset null, offset null, the negative terminal, and this is the offset null positive voltage. So, between these two, 1 and this is terminal number 4, this is 5, this is 7, which is plus volts, that means for plus VCC, and this is the extra terminal which remains normally closed, NC, normally closed. So, a offset voltage equal in magnitude and opposite in phase of what is existing here is applied between these two. And how we do that? Let us look here. This is done almost with every op amp. Whenever we want to use the op amp, we have to make corrective measures, and this is done invariably for all op amps. It is very simple. This is the two inputs 2 and 3. This is non-inverting, this is inverting. Now, this is inverting, this is non-inverting, and both are grounded, and this is pin number 1 here. I draw this figure again. This is 15 volts normally, and this is minus 15 volts, this is VEE. And here between pin 1 and 5, pin 1 and 5, which are meant for offset null connection, a potentiometer is connected. This is a pot potentiometer, and this is the battery, and this is the wiper. This is say 10K pot. Pot stands for potentiometer. It is a very tiny, hardly few millimeters in dia and few centimeter long. It is a cylinder, and that is a pot having 2 connections and 3 connections. So, the extreme 2 are connected to pins 1 and 5, and the movable one which can be moved through the screwdriver, that is connected to the battery. So, here we make measurement of the output V0, we measure across a load of few kiloohms, and these both inputs, the non-inverting and inverting, both are grounded. So, what we do? We take a 10 kilo ohm potentiometer, a small pot, and that is connected to these offset null pins, and both inputs are grounded, and the output is measured, and we change this wiper, that means this movable part, this is the screw is provided. So, by a small screwdriver we can rotate till we get a 0 voltage at the output. We stop there and we leave that potentiometer in that position. So, that takes care the this is called input offset voltage compensating network. It compensates. So, we rotate till we get the output 0, and that is it. So, at that point this takes care, it produces a voltage here which is of same magnitude and opposite in phase as the input offset voltage. So, this is how we take the corrective measures. And as I said, this is required for accurate results almost invariably in all the operational amplifiers. Now, we take very important characteristic for operational amplifiers. 2 characteristics are quite important. One was the common mode rejection ratio, CMRR. This we have talked when we talked about the differential amplifier, that this is CMRR is defined as the differential mode and the ratio of differential gain in differential mode and gain in common mode, where AD is voltage gain of op amp in differential mode. We apply some difference voltage at the inputs, and we apply and we measure at the output. The ratio of the two will give the differential gain. We have talked about all this, and ACM is the voltage gain of op amp in common mode. In common mode, here a common signal is applied to both inputs and output is measured. Ideally, this is supposed to be 0, giving this common mode rejection ratio as infinitely high, but in practice that voltage will not be 0, and but still it is very small, and this common mode rejection ratio is measured in decibels, and normally 70 to 80 even higher CMRR common mode rejection ratio are there for op amps. There are different, as I said, several thousand types of op amps are available. So, if common mode rejection ratio is a very important parameter for the performance, then we choose the op amp with very high values of common mode rejection ratio. So, this we have already talked. Now, we are going to talk about another parameter which we mentioned earlier, slew rate. Slew rate. Slew rate is a frequency related parameter. It is a frequency related parameter. When inputs change, the outputs never change instantaneously. I repeat, when inputs change, the change in the output of the op amp is never instantaneous. It takes some finite time, and this finite time, why it is that I will just talk, but let me say that this finite time, how fast the output will rise, that is given by slew rate. And why it is not instantaneous? Because there are one or two small value capacitor, few capacitors in the op amp internal circuitry. For example, in 741 there is 130 picofarad capacitor which has been used for bringing stability to bring stability of the working of the operational amplifier. This 30 pf capacitor was not there in the earlier version, the first version which was brought out in 1965 by Fairchild USA. It was not there. So, the outputs will oscillate or they will be latched. There were some problems, and this capacitor takes care for those problems. So, this is there. Now, there is a finite time required for charging this capacitor. Now, if charging current is I, then the capacitor C will have a rate of change of voltage I, which is equal to C dV by dt. This is from the basic theory of the capacitors, that if I is the charging current, then the rate of change of the voltage across the capacitor is given by this. and that, or dV by dt is I by C, I by C. Now, when the charging current reaches a maximum, when charging current reaches a maximum value, the rate of change of voltage gets constant. Gets constant, and taking the voltage across the capacitor as output voltage, the voltage across capacitor may be taken as output voltage, then the maximum rate at which it reaches, and this will be fixed by the maximum current, and this maximum current will come from the input signal. So, this is called the charging current puts this rate at a maximum, and this is known as slew rate, and it is written as SR. Now, this slew rate is expressed SR slew rate, it is expressed in the units of volts per microsecond. So, if the slew rate is, for example, 0.5, let SR be 0.5 volt per microsecond, and if the output goes as high as say 10 volts, then slew rate puts the restriction, and it says that it will take 20 microseconds when the output will rise to 10 volts. And so, this is the meaning of the slew rate. It cannot be faster than this. And again, there are op amps with different slew rates. In some applications will require very fast slew rates, and those op amps will are manufactured differently. Now, manufacturers, they define the data sheet of the op amp by the manufacturer. They give slew rate for unity gain, By unity gain is V0 is gain into Vi, and if gain is unity, then V0 is Vi. For this, the data sheets give slew rate. So, let us take a sinusoidal signal Vi at the input with peak value of Vm sin omega t, and same as output Vm sin omega t, then dV0 dt will be Vm omega cos omega t, and we said slew rate we define when d V0 by dt, the rate of change of output voltage is maximum. So, this is maximum when cos omega t is 1. So, d V0 by dt maximum, and this is Vm into omega, and omega is 2 pi f. So, this is 2 pi f into Vm, and from here we get a relationship between the peak voltage and the maximum frequency. So, F max comes out to be slew rate. This is the slew rate we have defined, slew rate by 2 pi Vm. SR is the slew rate. So, for example, if we have the highest frequency at a certain value, when peak value is say a 10 volts, and this maximum frequency depending on of course the slew rate, suppose this comes out to be 5 kilohertz or 20 kilohertz, 20 kilohertz when Vm is 5. When Vm a higher magnitude signal is used, frequency will fall. Frequency, the maximum usable frequency, that means maximum frequency which will give undistorted output is fixed. So, this is related to things. All these 3 parameters are related. Depending on the slew rate, the maximum frequency for the peak value is fixed, and if peak value increases, frequency will go down. If this falls, then this maximum frequency will increase. If we exceed that frequency, then for example, a sinusoidal signal will appear as triangular at the output, a distorted signal will appear. So, this is the slew rate, which is measured in volts per microsecond, and I have already expressed that finite time output takes to rise to come to the maximum level, and that is governed by slew rate. So, that covers the basic of the specifications of and characteristics of operational amplifiers. In fact, we have finished this module, and this course as such is over. I will first summarize what we have done in this module, then I will write the references which are good enough for the whole course, and then if time permits, which I hope it will permit quickly, I will take some problems from this module. To summarize what we have done, we started with a differential amplifier. The differential amplifier has 2 inputs, it is very different from conventional amplifiers, and one input is called inverting. Inverting in the sense that the input signal will appear with a inversed phase at the output, and the other terminal is non-inverting, where it will appear as such, input will appear in the same phase at output. If these signals for operational amplifiers, they can be DC as well as AC, because direct coupled amplifier it is, and hence DC signals can also be used. Now, the differential amplifiers can be used in 4 different modes, which we said. Normally, the outputs we take from the 2 collectors, and when there is a perfect symmetry of the 2 transistors, their characteristics are 100% identical, then output will be 0 for the same or no inputs. but there are departures as we have seen because of a lack of perfection, lack of 100% symmetry of the two transistors, and that gives rise to certain currents and voltages, which with a pot we can correct. So, anyway, so the differential amplifier, it can be normally we take from the two collectors the output, and then this is called dual input and balanced output, balanced output. This is one configuration which is most widely used for differential amplifier. There are the next usable, which is quite widely used, is a dual input and unbalanced output. That means, the output is taken from collector of Q2 with respect to ground. So, these two configurations out of the 4 are most widely used. Then we talked about the importance of differential amplifier, that differential amplifier is the first stage of the multi-stage direct coupled very high gain amplifier, which we call operational amplifier op-amp. So, we gave the block diagram of various stages of op-amp, and what was the purpose of each stage, that also was briefly explained. And then we gave the why it is called the operational amplifier, because it can be used for mathematical operations. We have taken several applications like sign changer, a summing amplifier, and subtraction can also be done by a differential amplifier formed with gain unity. Then it will just be the difference of two input signals at the output, and integrator and differentiator, that also we took, and these were the mathematical applications which we have taken, and some other amplifiers were discussed like log amplifier, where output will be the log of the input. And so, these were mathematical applications for mathematical operations which are used in analog computation, and these circuits are there. And then we have covered basic 3 amplifier modes in which op amps are used. One is the inverting amplifier. In inverting amplifier, the one basic thing was that the input, inverting input is virtual ground, that is, it is at ground potential, and it is called virtual because actual ground can absorb infinite current, but these are small power devices. So, hardly maximum few hundred milliampere currents they can tolerate. That is why it is called virtual ground, but the concept of virtual ground is very important, and it simplifies all the analysis which we have done, whether it is an integrator, differentiator or a summing amplifier, whatever it is, it simplifies the analysis significantly. And so, that is why we used a inverting mode for these applications, though it can be realized using non-inverting configuration also. So, and then the amplifier, how simple it is to construct a amplifier using op-amp. Just to choose 2 resistors, one the feedback resistance RF and one the input resistance R1, and in the inverting amplifier the gain will be the ratio of 2 resistances RF by R1. Very simple, nothing could be simpler than this. where Ri will give you the input impedance of the amplifier, feedback amplifier also. And then we took the non-inverting amplifier, and we have shown that non-inverting amplifier comes closest to an ideal voltage amplifier, in which we can use the feedback concepts and the term 1 plus AV. A is the open loop gain, this is the gain of the feedback network. So, this term is used to get the modified parameters for the non-inverting amplifier. For example, the input impedance, it will change, it will be enhanced by how much amount? This much. The input impedance without feedback into this term, that will be the input impedance for the feedback non-inverting amplifier. Similarly, change in bandwidth, that bandwidth also increases, and that change is given by this. So, there are several parameters, and the gain is also very simple to remember, 1 plus Rf by R1. This is the voltage gain for the non-inverting amplifier. So, that we have taken, and then we covered the applications of op-amps in designing filter circuits. Filter circuits are very widely used in electronic systems to select or to reject frequencies. From a wide spectrum, we select certain frequencies for our purpose, then a band select filter is to be used. If we just want that up to this frequency, they should be available, they should pass through our network, and remaining work should be rejected, and rejected one is the stop band, and this is pass band. So, this is a low pass filter, similarly high pass filter, and so on. This we have covered in a almost quite reasonably well, the circuit design and the analysis. In analysis, just the important thing was how to choose the components for the cutoff frequency and for pass band gain of the pass band frequencies. So, these were done, and what is a ideal op-amp we also discussed, and a practical op-amp is a direct coupled very high gain and very high input impedance amplifier. It is very useful. Hardly now actually the designs of systems using discrete components has gone drastically, it has been cut down. Most designers, they take help of various kinds of op-amps, because op-amp is available on a chip, and because they are produced in bulk in millions and billions. So, the cost per unit is very low, and hence these all operations can be obtained by using a operational amplifier. In the system, last 1 or 2 stages may be high power stages, they may be taken from the power transistors. So, they are discrete components, and this is how the op-amps are used. So, this is about this unit, and now I give the test books for this course. There are 2 test books which will be sufficient for almost everything what we have covered. One is electronics, circuits and analysis. I have authored this book. This is by Dinesh C. Dubey. For India and neighboring countries, the publisher is Narosa. India, they have branches in Delhi, Chennai, Calcutta and Mumbai. All the cosmopolitan have their branch, and for Europe and US and Canada, this has been published by Alpha International. UK. This is, you can see on the internet by giving this these details, electronics, circuits and analysis by Dinesh C. Dubey. The other book is Electronic Principles. Electronic Principles. This is by Albert Paul Malvino, and this is published by Tata McGraw-Hill. Tata McGraw-Hill publication, New Delhi. These two books should be sufficient. For op-amps, those who want go in greater detail about op-amps, there is a book by Ramakant A. Gaikwad, Op-amps and Linear Integrated Circuits. This is the title, Op-amps and Linear Integrated Circuits. This is by Ramakant A. Gaikwad, and this is published by Prentice Hall of India Private Limited. Very good book. The whole book is on op-amps and integrated circuits. Besides this, in journal you can have a reference book, and that is Integrated Electronics by J. Millman and C. Helkias. This is McGraw-Hill publication, McGraw-Hill International. So, as a reference book for any details you want to consult, this will be a nice book. Now, there is time for few examples which I can take. For example, there is this is the problem that for this circuit which I am drawing, I will write briefly what is required. This is a differential amplifier. This is plus VCC, which is 12 volts, plus 12 volts, and here this is minus VEE, which is minus 12 volts, and this is RE, which is 24K kilo ohms, and these resistances are 12K kilo ohms, and here we take V0, and this is Vi1 and Vi2. So, in this question, how much is V out? This is between two collectors C1 and C2. How much is the current IE? This is IE, this is also IE. How much is IE in each transistor Q1 and Q2? So, and this voltage we can find how much is the voltage V out between with collector from one collector to ground. Now, for this the solution is simple. First we have to find out the tail current. This is tail current IT, and IT is, if you simply, this is at potential VE, this voltage, but and this is at VEE. So, the potential difference across this resistance is this divided by RE. This is tail current. This voltage is very small in comparison to this. So, this is approximately equal to VEE by RE, and this is 12 volts and this is 24 K. So, IT becomes 0.5 milliampere. If we take resistance in kilo ohms, currents will be in milliamperes, because this will go 10 to power minus 3 here up it will come. So, this is the tail current, and the answer IE is equal to half of IT. So, 0.25 milliampere is the current in each transistor, and this much current. Now, to find out the potential difference between the two collectors, we find Vc1, that collector of first one is at what voltage, we apply the summation of voltages for this circuit, and that gives IC RC plus Vc1 equal to Vcc. IC in all BJTs, IC is equal to IE, IC is equal to IE, which is equal to 0.25 milliampere. So, this current we substitute here, 0.25 into 10 to power minus 3 into RC, RC is 12 K. So, 12 K and plus Vc1 equal to 12, and from here we get Vc1, this is at 9 volts. Vc2 will also come out to be at 9 volts. So, this is the potential with respect to ground, and between the two, that is V out is Vc1 minus Vc2, and this is 9 volts, both are 0. So, as we expect that for no signals or same signals, the output will be 0. So, we can find out the input impedance. Zi is 2 beta Re prime, and this is beta. If we take 100, Re prime we can calculate once we know IE. So, we can find out the value of this input impedance. There is time for one more problem, and that is construct, suppose this is the problem, construct a inverting amplifier such that input impedance with feedback is 5 kilo ohms and gain is 80. It is very simple. This is you have to choose these two values rightly. This is V out, this is R L, and this is VCC, VEE. This we choose 5K and this we choose as 400K, and he apply the signal here. Then gain is RF by R1, which is 400 by 5, which is 80 as desired, and input impedance ZIFB is equal to R1, which is 5K. So, that is it. So, this is very simple, and similarly the non-inverting amplifiers are simple. Construction of the filter circuits is very simple. Only one or two expressions are to be used. The gain is RF by R1, and cutoff frequency is 1 by 2 pi RC. R and C values connected with the filter circuit. So, I hope we have done justice to this course and you all have enjoyed. Thanks.